Hello, and welcome to Copy That, the new series from QuadCast that's all about copywriting. I'm your host, Lewis, and today I'm joined by Eleanor Jones to talk all things copy. Eleanor, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited for our chat.
Me too. So I just want to get going straight away with the most hard-hitting question. How did you get into copywriting?
Well, it's a good place to start. Well, I actually started straight after graduation. So I graduated in 2020, which wasn't the best year to graduate.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was quite a tough time. And I had a history degree, which didn't really go straight into a career, obviously. So I knew that I wanted to do writing. I've always, since I was a teenager, I've had a blog. I've just enjoyed writing myself for fun and just that craft of writing. So I thought, something in writing, something in marketing, but I didn't really have the vocab to say copywriter or content writer or blog writer or SEO writer. I didn't have those words yet, and I didn't know enough about those industries. So I just started taking freelance gigs in marketing and in social media and just anything that fell in that kind of that world with agencies or with SEO leads, and just kind of building up a client roster, I suppose, and working with people. And it was after about a year of doing that on the side of another job that I realized that copywriting and content writing was kind of what I enjoyed, I was more passionate about. And it's quite funny because I had actually been running my blog since I was 17, but I think I just not put two and two together that you could be paid to do that for other people.
Yeah, it's amazing when you suddenly go, I can be paid for this. My hobby is a paid thing.
I just don't think I put that together that, if I write that for my site, then other people might want that for their sites. And then, I started looking more into LinkedIn and started looking more into what other people were doing. And then I had that vocab to say, this is what I do. So I kind of say I fell into it a little bit, but then also I was always wanting to do something in writing and marketing, but I think I just needed that experience and to learn a little bit to find out what path I wanted to take.
Yeah, definitely. Can I just ask what your blog, what you'd started it about?
So I started about books when I was 17.
Nice.
So don't look in the archives. Just because I loved reading, and I still do. And then during the pandemic, as I was, doing freelance gigs, I then started working more on lifestyle posts because there's a lot of kind of sponsored content in that, working with brands, and brands would send you things and you feel like a little influencer. I feel like I started to build up there, and I started to realize that, I can get paid for writing a little bit on there. So it's an income stream, and I can also write for other people. And I did write for a few other bloggers, bloggers that have families or that have other things, jobs, not everyone's kind of blogging or writing full time. So I kind of went from there, and that's kind of how I built up a social media as well. So I built up on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and LinkedIn, and then I kind of got the ball rolling from there. But so it's more lifestyle, and now as well I talk a lot about freelance life, just because I feel like that goes well with what I do now. It's a good way to kind of promote myself and my eBooks, but also just write a bit of a creative space for me to write for myself.
Yeah, of course. And there's always going to be an audience for that kind of, I hate the term self-help, and I don't mean it to kind of, I think self-help has quite a negative connotation, but you hear how to in the freelance space. And that is a huge help for people now. Yeah. I think, that we see so many more people, especially our generation. I think I graduated in 2019, so I think it's safe to say I'm the year older than you. I feel like our sort of generation, we've seen this rise in, okay, I'm going to go and work for myself because I don't want to work for anybody else. And me personally, I prefer to work for somebody else. I kind of like being told what
Everyone's
to do.
Different.
But, it's then huge respect for everybody that is no, I'm going to go and set up my own business, and I'm going to go and do this for myself, and this is the career path that I'm going to carve out. And
no, definitely. I think the pandemic kind of played a role in that, actually, looking back, because I think, I was applying for a few, agency or in-house and marketing, just kind of as most graduates do, thinking, what am I doing and where am I going? And then, after maybe not getting those jobs or not really finding things that really fit for me, I then started trying out freelance gigs instead. So I think it's different things, isn't it? I think in agency roles, obviously you get the opportunity to learn from other people and be part of that team, whereas obviously freelancing, you get to learn a little bit more on the job maybe. So I think it's pros and cons of different paths.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so I mean, that kind of then quite nicely answers my next question, actually, which is, studying formally. And
Yeah.
I think, you said you did a history degree, so I did a film studies degree, which they're both humanities subjects, and there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of assignment writing, and there's going to be a lot of essay writing within that. And I can't speak for yourself, of course, but for me, having that experience has really helped me, because I didn't have, coming into this career, I didn't have any kind of blog writing experience per se, really. So, I mean, I started my career as a copywriter about 5 years ago now. So, I mean, similar to yourself, of course, then, because that would be 2020.
Different paths, yeah, definitely. And no, definitely, I think with those kind of humanities degrees, there's definitely those, you say, transferable skills that obviously an academic essay is different to a blog post, but it's still writing, and it's still meeting deadlines and researching and being thorough and learning how to meet a word count. And yeah, there's definitely different ways of doing it. And I guess I kind of backtracked a little bit because I learned on the job, and then I started learning a little bit more about the industry rather than learning about the industry and then getting the jobs. So there's different ways of doing it. I think sometimes, obviously, you can study too much and you just need to start writing and start improving, creatively as you go. And then, there's cons to learning on the job because you might not know that background. And obviously with marketing and copywriting, there is a lot of kind of psychology and advertising and sales involved in that. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And I like the fact that people are in different paths and people follow different directions with what we do in writing and other creative pursuits. It's interesting to see how different people go.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the reason I wanted to start this whole Copy That project was because everybody's experience is so vastly different. And, I'm yet to meet a fellow copywriter, whether it's, friends of mine or people like yourself who I've kind of only just met virtually, that nobody has the exact same story. And there might be kind of similar beginnings where you go, well, I graduated straight into a pandemic, therefore what was I supposed to do? Let me just carve out this path for myself. It's just interesting to see how everybody, I don't want to say falls into this career, but everybody kind of, arrives at the same destination. It's, everybody gets to the same destination through a completely different journey. And it's really nice to see.
No, that's
I don't know if that's a reductive thing to say, but it's just kind of really, I don't know. I just like to see it. I like to learn about how everybody arrived here, and because this is clearly a job that we all love to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely. I think it's like you say, it's falling into, and it's like by accident. But I think you don't really hear about copywriting in school. It's kind of journalist, or it's novelist. You don't really hear about, oh well, there's all of these marketing roles. There's SEO writers, blog writers, there's content writers, copywriters. I mean, there's obviously overlap with all of it. There's a lot more out there than like you say, that you might hear about.
Yeah, definitely. And me myself, so doing a film studies degree, I then did a master's. Not that I'd ever talk about the fact that I have a master's degree, but so I did a master's degree in screenwriting, and it was never kind of an intended career path because I was already working as a copywriter at the time when I started that. But it's just amazing that all of these skills are so transferable, even though I'm not working. None of the clients that we work with, I work for an agency. None of the clients that we work with kind of exist within fiction or within narrative. But to just be able to have the skills to go, okay, well, let's structure it in like a 3-act sort of way to be able to go, we need to get from point A to point B to point C, and we need to do it in as linear a way as possible to make it as satisfying a read as possible. And I'd quite like to ask you specifically about the eBooks, because this is something that I was really curious about upon seeing you on LinkedIn. And I'm just wondering, what kind of eBooks are they? Do you write fiction? Do you write non-fiction? Is it kind of, again, I hate the term, but is it like self-help, how-to,
et
cetera, et
It
cetera?
is more of the how-to kind of non-fiction. I do love to write fiction in my spare time, and I completely agree with you about everything. I think when you do something creative, everything has its role. So you might not be writing a play for a client, but like you say, that structure and that narrative and storytelling does play a role, even so. And I think, like, I like to read a lot of fiction, and I think even though I might be writing more sales copy, I think it does play a role in how does this author use the words and the kind of psychology of that. But Yeah, with my ebooks in particular. So one of them is about blog writing, just to help people that are new to the industry, or that maybe are freelance. They might be a freelance web developer, but they just don't know how to write, and that's fine. They want to learn the basics. So they want to get out there with blog content, but they maybe want to write it themselves, but they don't want to hire someone, but they want kind of that middle ground of learning from someone that knows the ins and outs of it. So that was my first one. And then I had quite a bad experience of burnout in 2022. So then I wrote kind of a short guide to help other freelancers and creatives. And yeah, I guess it would fall into that kind of, as you say, self-help. It's kind of to help people avoid my mistakes and set boundaries and look after themselves. So I thought they were quite good. It's quite a good space. And I like using LinkedIn to kind of talk to other freelancers and help people where I can, even though I am still also new to it myself.
Yeah, that's an incredible thing to do just in your spare time, to just say I want to help people navigate burnout. I mean, that is such. I'm going to go off on a tangent, thinking, oh my god, this is the most profound thing I've ever heard. But it's it's a lovely sentiment to say, this is what I'm going to do because this is what my experience is. So let me help other people.
I think as well, it also starts from, as a freelancer, you hear of this feast-famine. So sometimes you might be really busy with client work, and then sometimes you'll have a bit of a dry spell, and you might not have as many projects coming in. And I thought, how can I use that time productively to do something rather than just sitting here panicking? Because I think it's really easy to be thinking, oh, well, why aren't I getting the work in? And sometimes it just doesn't come. There might be a month or two where other clients are busy, or like August, especially in Christmas time, people are doing their own thing, people are off with their kids. And so I did spend a lot of time writing that ebook around, not actually on Christmas, but around that time, in December, when people took time off. So yeah, it was a bit of spare time and a bit of for myself as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I just want to circle back a little bit to actual, we'll say paid work. We'll say paid work for now. So have you specialized in a particular niche or a particular industry with your copywriting, SEO writing, you name it?
Yeah, it's a really big question. It's funny because everyone you speak to will say something different. So I'm interested to see other copywriters in this series, kind of what their take is, because for me, obviously, the way that I went into it was kind of, I learned afterwards about all this niche and industry, and to niche or not to niche, and it's quite a hot topic. And I think there's pros and cons either way. I personally call myself a generalist because I do like the variety of lots of different projects. I've worked with all sorts of industries and all sorts of projects. And like I said, I did kind of realize that it was a long form blog writing that I do prefer. So I tend to say that I niche by format, I suppose, like the kind of writing I do, because at the start I did a lot of social media and all sorts of different things, PR, marketing, research. So I said it's the blog writing that I want to focus on. But that said, it is the writing I enjoy. So if someone comes to me with a project that is a little bit off that, I like to discuss and see what I can do. But yeah, so I've not chosen an industry necessarily because I do like the variety. But I think there's pros and cons, isn't there? Because I speak to other copywriters, and I think sometimes as a freelancer, you can sometimes charge a little bit more, or an agency, if you have a specific industry experience. But because I came straight from a degree, I didn't have kind of previous experience in a job role or anything like that. I wasn't a vet who then became a pet copywriter, or a nurse who became a health and wellbeing writer. So yes, at the moment, I like the generalist kind of take on things, but never say never.
Never say never. I find that it's never too late to choose your niche. If you do choose one. If I was to choose a niche, I would go and work for like an entertainment.
Yes.
I would be writing a copy for entertainment based on the degrees that I have, and just based on what I do outside of work. But being that sort of generalist, because working for an agency, that's what I would consider myself as by default, I suppose. There's bound to be certain kind of industries that I might not. I'm not kind of science minded, so that I find harder. But that's not to say that I don't enjoy it, because it's pushing myself out of my comfort zone in a way where I can go, let me go and learn about this because I quite literally have to.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think as a freelancer, I suppose I have a little bit more privilege in that I can choose the jobs that I want to work on. So if someone did come to me with something I thought, oh, that's a little dry or a little too technical, or something that just doesn't interest me and I don't need the work, then I can, choose jobs that are a little bit more to my interest. Because I do have things that I've written more about, like health and well-being, and then that's something that I am passionate about. So I have kind of, yeah, like you say, it's never too late to choose a niche. Like some people will go into it with a niche already set, and then some people will start to get that experience in a certain sector and then will kind of grow it from there. So I think it's different paths, isn't it? And it's different ways of how people do things.
So, I mean, speaking of how people do things, how do you find that you usually get started on a piece of copy?
For me, it's all planning. I'm quite a planner anyway, and I find that if I have a blank page, I will just get more and more overwhelmed by that blank page, which I think a lot of writers have. It's that fear of the blank page. You see it and you think, even if it is a topic that you know about or that you've written about before, or even for a client that you've written about before, for some reason you see that blank brief and you think, oh, I've got to fill all of that in. I've got to think of the ideas, and you can't see the end point at that point. So yeah, it's always a plan. I like to, if I've been given a detailed brief, then that's ideal, and then I can start adding my research in and start building a proper structure. And if I haven't been given a brief, then I will write a brief for myself, because I feel like it's a good place to start. And that might be a bit more sporadic. It might be writing a bit here and a bit there and then putting links in, but I just think that means the next day when I come to write it, or even in a few days, it's not a blank page anymore, and that's some kind of mind block, I think, if it is a blank page. So it's nice to just be able to sit down and write then.
Yeah, the most daunting thing is to just start.
I know, and you know that, and you tell yourself that, but sometimes it doesn't make it any easier.
Oh no, it doesn't make it easier to, it's like the acknowledging that the issue is starting doesn't make it any less hard to start. It's
so true. Yeah, you need to break that blank page, I think, and just start. And I think that comes back to when we said about studying formally or just writing. I talk to freelancers that will say, I've been putting the groundwork in, and you say, just start the ball rolling, because you might be nervous about posting on LinkedIn, or I don't know, finding your first client or anything, but sometimes the answer is just to get going.
Yeah, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't try.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the ultimate takeaway, I suppose, from, I mean, in all aspects of life, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't try.
Yeah. Fail. It's okay to fail.
Yeah, it's okay to fail. And life has moved so fast, I think, in the last 5 years. I think we've kind of forgotten the art of failure in a way. And not to turn this into some kind of, I don't know, kind of philosophy session, but it can be just then daunting to go, oh God, I need to get this right on the first time, because there's no room for failure here, when actually, like, that's the most human thing, is to fail.
It's so true. That is so true. And I think, we live a lot of our lives now online, and we maybe are documenting more, and you think, oh, everyone's going to know if I put this LinkedIn post out and no one likes it. But if no one liked it, then it means no one saw it. So it's okay.
Yeah. And I found that, like, LinkedIn for me, I don't know whether it's just the connections that I have, but I feel like people are using LinkedIn now more like Facebook.
They are,
and I quite like it in a way, because it's kind of this intersection of, like, here's what I'm doing at work, mixed with here's what I'm doing in my personal life. And I like to get to know the people that I'm working with, because they're the people that you spend the majority of your time with. So why not have that sort of happy balance? I mean, I'm not particularly a Facebook user anyway now. And I've had to become more of a LinkedIn user since I've worked here, and that's how I've reached out to all of these lovely copywriters that have agreed to come on this show. So
no, that's so true. And I think that kind of feeds into that bigger question of kind of authenticity, because we see that a lot with people on LinkedIn and in marketing. And I think people do like to know the person behind the brand or the freelance work or the agency. It's nice to, like you say, if I post about a film that I watched or something that I enjoyed over the weekend, okay, it's not work related, but you might think, oh, that makes her a bit more personable, and kind of I can connect to that, rather than just always posting about content or always posting tips. It's good to sometimes get a little bit of the human element behind the person.
Exactly. People want to work with a person, not a blank profile. And that definitely, that personality, it's the more that you can kind of convey of yourself in a work appropriate way, the better.
I think that is the key, isn't it? I think LinkedIn has become that, and I know there's a bit of debate about it becoming Facebook, but it is quite nice to see see real people.
So the next question that I had for you, if you're doing something and you're finding that the words just aren't landing in the way that you're happy with, is there, how do you kind of combat that?
Well, I think obviously when you do something creative, there is, there's a limit, isn't there, sometimes to creativity. So that does happen, especially as you get, towards the end of the week and you've been doing a lot, you've worked a lot and you think, oh, the words just aren't flowing. So I do tend to do something different. And obviously being freelance is quite good for that. So I'll go for a walk, or I'll go and do some exercise, or I'll do something that just like completely takes me away from it. Because I mean, it sounds quite basic, but I feel like it really does help. Because I don't know, there's only so much you can sit at the desk and just try and get the words out, and it just doesn't come. So I think it's just getting your mind away from the actual task, or doing a different task even, if you're still sat at your desk doing something else, something maybe that's not paid, maybe just a like short blog post for yourself, or a LinkedIn post, or something that kind of uses your creativity in a different way, and then coming back to it. Because I think otherwise just sitting and staring at the blank page is useless, isn't it? But it's hard, because when you do something creative but then you do it for a job, you've only got so much creativity there until you need to refill that cup.
Yeah, well, it speaks to the burnout that you've spoken about. It's what do you do when you're when the thing that you do to take your mind off of writing is writing? There's some wires crossed there and it doesn't quite make sense. But, I think when you're a creative person and, you love language and you love to kind of craft words together and be a real wordsmith like that, the passion is always there. But sometimes it's just that mental block of, I can't do this anymore and I need to go and sit in a corner and stare at the wall.
It's so true. And actually that is the issue I had when I did burnout is at that point I was about kind of 3 months in to doing it full time. So I'd done it for about a year and a half-ish, but I was about 3 months into doing it full time, like when I'd given up my part-time job.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized, is that my blog used to be for fun alongside like my degree or other things I was doing. And then I'd taken on writing gigs, and then all I was doing was writing, and it was all paid, which felt amazing. But once your hobby becomes paid, you need another hobby. And I didn't give myself another hobby. And I think that's like, I didn't learn it the best way, but I think you have to have another. It doesn't have to even be creative. I started exercising and going to the gym, and that was kind of an outlet to get away from my desk and get out of the house.
Yeah.
Or I started writing fiction, and no one is going to read that, and I'm not going to send it anywhere to be paid, but it's for me, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. Or you might want to paint, or I don't know, anything. I think you need something else. And like you say, when you are creative, I think probably people fall into that trap a lot of, oh, I've got this creative hobby. Oh, I'm now being paid for it. But if it was your hobby before, you need another hobby that then kind of offsets that and keeps you creative and keeps you from burning out.
Yeah, definitely. My outlet was always kind of writing, and that's, I kind of would write, not like full on screenplays, but I would write like treatments for stories.
Exactly.
And that was always kind of the medium that I was drawn to, because I'm, very, very big film lover. It was one of my colleagues who is a runner. She like challenged me to run a 5K, because like, if you dare me to do something, I will do it.
Reverse psychology on that one.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm a sucker for a dare. And I like, as long as, it keeps me safe, it's fine. And so I did it, and I ran, and then as soon as I'd done a 5K, she went, well, why don't you do a marathon? You've done that now. And so,
not even a 10K.
No, it was straight to marathon. So, and I did it because she dared me to do it. And so, it's just a great outlet to then go and have, where it's like, right, I can leave here, I can turn my brain off, and I can go and do this, because this is what I'm now working towards. I
just didn't think I liked exercise at all. I was just the girl that would just read. That was fine. And read and write. And then, like in my early 20s, I started going swimming, and then I started going to the gym. And I thought, oh, actually, this is such a good outlet for, okay, I work from home, so I finish work at the end of the day, and then my sofa's right there. I'm not just going to, go over there and watch a film or watch TV. It means that I get out, I leave the house, I go and do something active after I've been sat down all day, and then I come back into the house and, that's like work is done for the day. I've come back into the house. And I think, like you say, it is like in your brain almost. You need to tell yourself, you leave and you come back, or you do exercise to then further your ideas. And yeah, I think it all plays a role in your writing, which I love, because it's, like Nora Ephron said, everything is copy.
Oh, Nora Ephron reference. Oh,
What an icon.
what an icon.
I've just bought her book Heartburn. I've not read it yet, but
It's fantastic.
I think that was, I'm so excited.
Really
it's
good.
such a tangent, but I love anything like that. And I love that idea of when you're doing something random, or you're having a random experience, or you're like on a run, like you say, and then you have an idea, or you use that idea then in something else, or an example for a blog post. I love that kind of creative circle.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to a bit of a meaty subject, because I feel like this is going to be something in the coming years that is just going to be kind of non-stop debate within the kind of copywriter community. But I just want to know, what is your take on AI tools within copywriting?
It is a big topic.
Yeah.
I feel like go on LinkedIn right now and scroll down a couple of posts and you'll see a take. For me, I use it as a tool occasionally.
Yeah.
So I use it, which sounds a little bit sad, but I almost use it as a person to bounce ideas with. I work from home by myself. If I'm writing a listicle and I can only think of 9 points and I just can't think of that 10th point, I might type into ChatGPT something to, a few prompts to help me. And 8 of the prompts will be terrible, and 2 of the prompts will have something that then gives me an idea for something else.
Yeah.
So that's how I personally use it. It's a tool to support when I need it. But I know that it is a big topic, especially with the idea of replacing people. And I think that's what scares a lot of people. For me personally, I haven't seen that on a client end. Actually, I've seen the opposite. I've seen one of my kind of regular clients actually asked me to sign something to say I wouldn't use AI.
Oh, wow.
So I actually don't touch AI for any of their work. Yes, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've got the one side, I think it's a fabulous tool for research, and similar to Google really, in like the researching element, just obviously more advanced, and idea generation and coming up with new ideas, titles as well. Like you said, titles are so hard to come up with.
Yeah.
So kind of putting in a few prompts and then getting an idea from something they've said. Or sometimes if I'm writing a sponsored post for my blog with a brand and they need me to include kind of a natural backlink, I'll think, oh gosh, how can I include this in the blog post I've written in a natural way that kind of works? And then I'll get ideas from AI. So yes, I think that I can definitely see why people are scared by it. I think that it can be a tool rather than a replacement, especially for writers. Obviously, that's what I'm speaking to. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what you've seen on agency side of things.
Yeah, I mean, we at Alpha Quad, we're kind of exactly the same. We use it as a tool if and when we need to. I'm kind of like the lone copywriter here, so I kind of get handed everything from account managers to say, here's this from the client, please do this, while they manage everything else. And I don't use it to write, because I think if you want to look at it from like a, in air quotes, ethical standpoint, I think it's very muddy waters to say like, I wrote this whole thing with AI, but at the end of the day, when you say to ChatGPT, write me an article about this, it's nowhere near the quality of a human writer. It's just simply not, because the main reason for me why I think it doesn't have that is because it's quite literally a tool that doesn't have any agency.
Yes, so true. It's a machine, isn't it? And I completely agree with that. I think it's a tool, but as you say, and I think you say obviously on an ethical level, and completely agree with that. But I think also on a personal level, I went into writing to write. So
Yes.
I want to write, because I did speak to someone once and they said, oh, well, you could take on like 10 times the clients you have and obviously make 10 times the money, but put it all through AI. And just think, yes, but the craft of writing, maybe it's naive, but the craft of writing is like the reason I went into something creative. We go into creative things for the love of writing. And obviously there's a sales element and a marketing element and an SEO element to it all. But the writing is the bit that I don't want to outsource. I would get AI to do the things that, are a bit more boring, sending emails, that kind of thing. But no, the writing is the thing that I want to do. So I think it's on an ethical level, but also on a creativity level. And like you say, if 10 people are putting, the same prompt for an article into AI, they're all going to get a very similar thing. And then we all know that Google doesn't like that. And for kind of a search engine on a sales point of view, you know, you don't want your clients to then be marked down because you've put something through AI. I think it seems a little risky, especially in the stages we're at with it at the moment.
Yeah, we use Ahrefs, and if you put in a website, you can see it. You know, it'll tell you. We believe that this is like 96% AI generated content, and that is like really beneficial in a way. So I did it with, I won't name and shame the outlet, but it was an entertainment source that kind of reports on upcoming film releases, like production notes, all of these sorts of things. I could tell just from the formatting of this, it was a listicle, and I could tell from the formatting of it that everything was like nothing was in sentence case, and like the beginning of every word was capitalized, and I was like, that is just such a dead giveaway. Like, you've not even tried here. And
yeah, so at least edit it.
Yeah, at least try. Like, if you're gonna cheat, at least do it well. And so I put this website into Ahrefs, and lo and behold, it was like, yeah, we believe this is, I think it was 93%.
That's so demoralizing as well for you as a film lover to read that, especially if it is like something like a review or just anything. I just think you read that and I don't know, you're a bit disappointed by it, aren't you? You think, oh, a real human hasn't gone and seen this film and told me what they think of it or told me the details. That there isn't someone behind that like me telling me the information. I think I would feel that disappointment if I was, you know, buying something or reading something online and I thought, oh, they've not even tried, you know, they've not even tried to edit it. And there is those dead giveaways, isn't there? I mean, everyone goes on about the dashes, and I do love a dash in my own writing.
I love a dash.
Yeah, I do come for my dashes. But, you know, at the same time, there is those dead giveaways when people haven't edited it and haven't taken the time to really use it, like we've said, as a tool and for ideas rather than just complete replacement and copy and paste it. Just like you say, it feels like cheating, like a bit lazy.
Yeah. Just going to bounce off of the dashes. Have you found that you've edited how many times you use certain aspects of punctuation? Because I'll go like, oh, I can't use a dash because what if they think...
I do, yeah.
And I think that's just then really sad. It's like, you know, everybody's got their own style. And of course, there's grammatically, you know, there's a time and a place for a dash, and there's a grammatically correct place for that. The other thing that I love is a semicolon. Love a semicolon. And you know, for me, I find that I don't then use them because I then think, well, what if they think like, you know, this isn't me that's written this. And
no, that's so true. That's so true. I have definitely been more aware of it since, you know, all of these debates and I mean, I know that my regular clients will know my writing style already, so they hopefully won't flag me as writing with AI because I'm not. But you do think, don't you, if I'm writing for someone new, I don't want it to come back and they've typed in, you know, 10 ways to tell that something is written by AI, and you've not written it by AI, but you get accused of that because you've got a dash in it. And yeah, it's a really complex debate. I think there's a lot of fear around it, and I think things definitely need to settle. I mean, obviously when it first came out, there was a lot of fear, and I think things have settled a little bit. But yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, as a creative to kind of balance out the usefulness of using it occasionally for your work, but not wanting to obviously let it replace you, because where's the joy in that?
I think the criticism around AI, I think, is almost lazy, because people will look at something that they don't like. And I think that in an age where everybody is constantly sharing their opinion on social media now, I think opinions have started to lose their sort of gravitas. And a lot of the kind of commentary that I see on art that people really don't like is, it's AI generated, you just don't like it. And because you associate AI with anti-art, which is it? Maybe. I'm not going to be the judge of that, but it's like a dog whistle in a way. It's just to say that this is a bad thing. How dare you? And I don't know. I just find there to be kind of like an abject laziness.
No, that's so true. And like you say, I think with people kind of choosing one side or another, you know, polarizing people, and social media is really good for that, and in a bad way. And kind of people feeling the need to have like this opinion on everything, and feeling, I think it gets that philosophical idea again, doesn't it? And like you say, what is art? What is creativity? It's it can be quite a sensitive subject, and I think there is definitely a laziness to it, because you see on LinkedIn, obviously, if you post something very controversial about AI, it will instantly do really well, because people will obviously be agreeing with you or disagreeing with you in the comments. But actually, I think probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle of, like what we've said, it's okay to occasionally use it. It's okay to use it as a tool. It's not going to replace you as a writer in terms of for yourself, you're wanting to do the writing yourself. But I think, as with a lot of debates, it probably is somewhere in the middle.
I want to just jump off of something about controversy there. It's, you know, nothing draws interest like controversy. And I think that, you know, we've seen with social media, as I say, you know, the rise of my opinion is the only opinion. And I wonder then, because social media has kind of brought in the age of the aesthetic rather than the age of like critical thought. And I wonder then, like, how do you feel that that social media has impacted copywriting?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. And that's so true about, the controversy and kind of, people having these opinions. I think definitely, I mean, I don't know about you, but attention spans do seem to be down. Obviously, you have, I think we all collectively, you know, we've got videos, and I think definitely with the rise of video, I'm not sure if that's kind of had an impact on copywriting in terms of people don't want to sit down and read a blog post, you know, because it's a lot longer than even a LinkedIn post or, you know, a tweet. X post is super short, or a video obviously is just really easy to consume. So I wonder if people are less likely to want to read that kind of longer form content. That said, there has been a real boom in, do you know, Substack? That's that platform. And I find that really interesting, because that seems a lot more creative, and it's more kind of essays and long form, and people putting across opinion pieces, but in a more long form way, kind of how journalists, I suppose, do or used to do when you would kind of report on a story or on like a special interest. So I think it's interesting to see that doing so well, especially when it's not quite about those kind of quick posts and quick kind of dopamine hit. So I think, in terms of affecting copywriting, I would say definitely making blog posts skimmable has become quite a thing. I don't know on your side, but I definitely, well, you think even when you read a blog post yourself, you do skim to the bits that you need to read, the bits that you want to kind of get the information if you need it. You might not sit down and read it all as much as you might want someone to. But yes, I think maybe that's had an impact in terms of the short attention span. Yeah, it is interesting to see these other platforms doing so well when they are based on long form. So yeah, there seems to be a bit of a divide there.
Are we in the age of the blog, in an age where attention spans are dropping at a rapid rate? Is reading a novel or a non-fiction book too much? Therefore, people crave something shorter that they can read in half an hour, as opposed to something that's going to take them 8 hours to consume.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Seeing how different people and how different generations have kind of approached that, and in some cases have gone back to more of the long form. And like that's a very good point, that obviously a 4,000 word article sounds long compared to, obviously, if we're used to writing 500 word or 1,000, but actually if you compare it to a novel, then it is very short. So I think that's a really interesting topic, isn't it? I don't think there's really any right answer there. It's just different examples, isn't it?
You know, I think the whole conversation around AI is just going to be continuously evolving, as AI is going to continuously evolve. I think the more that people fight against it, it's almost like the more they're going to push it on us. And unfortunately, it's here. You know, we've got to just learn to embrace it. You know, the thing is, it's like, if, you know, for Apple users, it's been on your phone for the last 10 years.
Yes, it's so true. I spoke to someone who had a very good point, and she said that she remembers when, you know, iPhones had really, you know, the first iPhone came out with a really good camera, and people said, oh, it's going to replace photographers, and that didn't happen, because you know, me taking a picture on my iPhone is nothing compared to a professional photographer. And I think you see the same thing with, you know, Canva and graphic designers, or you know, these tools that actually you do still need a professional. And I think people will realize that, and like you say, it might evolve. Like you see I've seen jobs, you know, that are specifically for AI, or training AI, or writing with AI, and, you know, editing previously AI written content, all that kind of thing. So things will evolve, but I think, like you say, it's kind of learning how you can evolve with it in a way that is comfortable for you and also works with the work that you're trying to do and kind of your creativity. It's kind of, there's lots of different nuances to it, and as you say, I think there's kind of, people are very black and white with it, but actually there's a lot of nuance to the debate.
Definitely. There's more to unpick than we can do in a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll leave that topic there. We'll park it there.
No, it's a very interesting one though, and one that will keep on going.
Yeah, it's going to continue to evolve, as we say. So is there a particular project that you are really proud of that you've done?
Oh, well, yes, I actually recently did a blog post for a website about books, which already is just dreamy for me.
Yes.
And it's a blog review site, a book review site, and he does like really long, as you were mentioning, kind of 3,000 words plus reviews that really get into, a book's core, just everything about it, about the author, about the book itself, about the themes and the dialogue and the actual narrative style of it and all that kind of thing. And he came to me asking if I'd like to write a review for it, and I was so proud of that piece because I worked really closely with him as an editor, which is always nice as a writer to have someone kind of give you, it always feels overwhelming to get edits, but they always make it better.
Yeah.
When you work with someone that kind of knows how to push you. And I think it was what you said a little earlier about kind of pushing you out of your comfort zone, because even though books is something that I really do like to talk about and write about, this was a kind of a different format and something almost a little bit more academic, kind of getting back to kind of what I did at uni and a lot of research and kind of reading. And yeah, I just loved it. It was so nice to kind of get into the creativity and to write about the book rather than something. Obviously I love doing like web copy and more salesy things, but this is a more long form and kind of really getting into something that you're really passionate about. It's just a nice change, and it can kind of really challenge you.
Definitely. There's nothing better than a little passion project.
Yes, exactly.
It can
especially if you get paid for it.
Especially if you're being paid for it. It like that to me was like a revelation where I was like, oh my God, I'm at work and I'm writing about a film. This is amazing.
And you did a good job as well. And like it like you said, it got good engagement and it got out to people and kind of showed that long form work, even if it is on something a little bit more niche, works. So yeah, I was really proud of that. Proud of all my work, of course. But I was proud of that just because it was something a little bit different. And obviously I work with a lot of great clients on informative blog posts and sales copy and that kind of thing. So this was something a little bit more towards my interest and something that just I could really get my teeth into. So I enjoyed that.
Amazing. That's, as I say, there's nothing better than a passion project, and that must have been absolutely insanely
It was amazing
to do.
I spent about 2 weeks writing about the bell jar. I mean, what more could you want?
oh come on, that's just like, that's insane.
Isn't it just? When it fell into my inbox, I thought, is this real?
I feel like insane was maybe the wrong choice of words when discussing the
Maybe
bell
for
jar.
Sylvia.
Little on the nose, but how
Bless
fabulous.
Her. Oh, I know, it was so good. And then I did another one for him recently about the yellow wallpaper, which
nice.
Is another good, it's a short story, but yeah, just so interesting. And I like that. Insane.
It's such a classic little short story. So this is maybe a little bit of a kind of a broader question now to ask, but compared to when you first started, what are some things that you do differently now?
I would say one of the main things I do differently is talking to other writers, which might sound quite basic, but when I first started, and probably another reason that I burned out, is I just completely isolated myself. And I thought, well, I'm a writer, I'm just going to be writing all day, working by myself. But actually you need other people. And like, obviously on the agency side, you'll have a team. And even if you are the only copywriter there, you'll have people that you'll speak to if you need a bit of advice or a bit of kind of a creative boost or something. And I think it's so important to have that, because as a freelance writer, obviously you're not part of a team, or you're just by yourself. So I'd say one of the big things I do differently in my work is talking to other people, getting advice from them, kind of getting tips as well on how I can improve my content, learning about these things like the AI debate and various different things in the industry, and just kind of having a bit more of a broader view of the industry rather than just what I'm focusing on, because I think you sometimes need that scale, and LinkedIn's really good for that, actually.
Yeah.
You know, meeting other people and connecting and getting ideas. And yeah, you need that. You can't just do everything by yourself. You need a support system almost to help you be creative and also good at being a freelancer as well as a writer, for me.
Yeah. And it then brings into question that whole idea of like competition versus collaboration, because I feel like this is such a community, and you know, I can't speak from the freelancer point of view, of course, but as an agency person, I can reach out to copywriters on LinkedIn and say, I need help with this, without there being any kind of judgment, or without there kind of being any sort of, no, of course not, like, I'm not getting paid for this, you leave me alone.
No, that's so true. And you do hear that, don't you? That kind of competition or collaboration. And I think, I mean, maybe it's naive, but I think there's enough work to go around. And I think especially as a freelancer, I think having connections with other writers, or even just other people kind of tangentially linked to the industry. I've had work from referrals from other writers or other people in web development or SEO, or, you know, other areas of, you know, linked industries. And I think it's so important to have that sense of community. Like you say, you could reach out to someone for advice, or, you know, say if you wanted to move somewhere else or go freelance, or, you know, you can talk to other people and get a broader image of, you know, what's going on and who's doing what. And yeah, as a freelancer, that is very valuable, because you can then refer work to other people if it's not quite your job, or get those referrals. So I think collaboration is definitely a nice way to look at it, because there are those opportunities. And like, even, you know, you reached out to me on LinkedIn, and then we're doing something like this. And I think that's a really nice way of looking at that community.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best way to put it. It's a community, you know, within creative communities. I think that everybody is generous, and everybody is willing to say, here's like an hour of my time, you know, I don't mind it. Like, it's fine. You know, I'm always happy to do that. And there's a feeling of belonging with that. And that's really, really lovely.
No, I think so. Definitely. I think when I burned out, actually, I spoke to another writer who I'd worked with like previously, and she started talking to me, like having calls like this and chatting to me, and she gave me kind of advice about moving forward and the direction I was going in, and how I could kind of get over that burnout and kind of move on and towards other things. And that was so helpful to me. And she'd been in the industry, you know, like 20 years, and she really helped me. And then, you know, people might come to me for advice, which still makes me laugh because I'm only a few years in myself, but, you know, it's nice, it's a compliment. And I try and do the same for them, you know, to give them a snapshot of what the industry's like, and how, obviously there are lots of different paths, but how I got started and how they could get started. And yeah, I think that's a really lovely way to look at it. And for a freelancer, it's like having colleagues, because you need that sense of a team.
Again, it's just that nice feeling of being like, okay, I'm like, you're a team of one, but there's countless people out there that can provide support and offer help. And whether they're agency, whether they're in-house, or whether they're freelance, they're there to help.
No, definitely. That is a good thing, actually, as a freelancer, about working with agencies, because, you know, sometimes you will be in contact with different members of a team, and you feel a little bit more part of that, which is nice, kind of opposed to kind of direct with clients.
Yeah, that leaves me actually really lovely into my next question, which is, so, you know, when you're doing paid work, do you prefer long-term client relationships, or are you more of a one-off projects kind of person?
That's a good question. Can I choose both?
Of course you can.
No, I think I would probably say long-term, because I have been very lucky that I have had quite a few long-term clients. I have actually someone that I've worked with since the start, kind of up and down, you know, different amounts each month, but I think it's really nice. And then a couple of others that I've worked with for kind of a year or 2 years. And as a freelancer especially, it's nice to know that I have a little bit of stability in that. You know, I know that I'm getting a certain amount from them each month, and it's a really nice working relationship. I just think it's lovely to kind of, I know how they work and they know how I work. So it's quite nice to kind of have that stability, and also to know each other and know what they expect of me and what I expect of them. I like that relationship and building that relationship. But I would say that one-off obviously are also good for kind of challenging you a little bit more, because obviously when you have someone that you've worked for a long time, you already know how they work, and that makes it easier. And then a one-off one comes in and you think, oh, that's a new thing to learn, or a new kind of client to get your head around. So it's definitely a bit of both, but I would say long term just a little bit more, because I do quite like that stability as a freelancer and really getting into projects and really getting to know the people that I'm working with. Yeah. Whereas a one-off, obviously sometimes you'll send it off and then you'll never hear from them again, which is fine. You know, everyone's done what they need to do, but it is nice to be able to build those relationships.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to be able to kind of like put name to face and voice to face and etc with the people that you're working with. And working with, you know, we work with a few freelance designers, for example, and it's always really nice for them to be able to come and go from us whenever we need something, or for them to come to us and say, like, you know, have you got anyone that you could recommend? And it's just nice to have that sort of working relationship where they come and go as they please. It's nice. It's nice to have from our point of view as well. So in case you were wondering how agencies feel.
No, it's the same on the other side. No, I completely agree. I think it's like coming back to that idea of having a team as well, isn't it? It's, you know, say if I haven't been very well and I have to push an article, if it's someone that I've worked with for a few months or a few years even, they know that it's okay that I might push one deadline because I'm not feeling very well, or that something's come up and we need to change things around. I think people are a bit more flexible about that kind of as and when work, and kind of working that out. Whereas obviously with a one-off, sometimes there's a little bit more pressure of, okay, I need to do a good job for this one-off one, and then that'll be the end of the project. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons of both. I know some freelancers don't really like that kind of retainer work because they prefer to work on one-off projects and kind of, I suppose, not give away their time in the way that you do when you work in a job. But I really like that stability and that regular work coming in. And then I think sometimes it gives you the freedom to then find those one-off projects if you know that you're getting, you know, a small bit each month. So yeah, it's just different ways of working, isn't it?
So everybody loves to receive compliments on their work. Is there like a particular compliment or a particular piece of work that was really praised that really stands out to you as being like, oh my God, I did it. Like, I'm really happy with, you know, really proud of that because, you know, people liked it.
No, it's so nice to get that praise. And I think sometimes as a freelancer, you don't get loads of praise unless you ask for it, because obviously like at the end of a project, I'll try and ask for a testimonial, which always feels a little bit grubby, doesn't it? Saying, please praise me. Please give me feedback. But yeah, when you're your own boss, I feel like, you know, you're hardest on yourself, aren't you? So it's nice to get that external praise sometimes, and like you say, kind of boost you a little bit. So I actually did get one quite recently, and again, I thought that I'd not done a very good job because I'd kind of not heard from this client in ages. You know, we'd sorted out the project and it was all fine, but it kind of gone off the radar a little bit. So then I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just check in and ask for a testimonial. And he gave me the most glowing testimonial, and you think, oh, actually he was probably just busy, you know, or off on holiday or something. So yeah, and I think it was the fact that he'd said that I'd boosted engagement for his client, which is just obviously dreamy anyway when it's, you know, something that you do and that's your job. But also it's nice to get that external feedback that it was along the right lines, and that, I don't know, I suppose when you do something creative, it's not always tangible, whereas that is tangible proof that my writing helped the client to get out to more people. And I feel like it's lovely to receive that, because obviously it's lovely to hear that your writing's good or that you've done a good job or that you're professional, but it's also nice to receive that, and especially for a project that like I really enjoyed working on. So that was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, definitely. That's lovely. And then just my next question, moving on to kind of the future of your career, is there like a big, you know, dream project, or is there any kind of like big, like, I really hope I get to do this?
Well, I think I mentioned that I'd been looking at kind of opportunities in the health and wellbeing sector, just because, as I said, in my early 20s, I got really interested in myself in kind of fitness. And before that, I'd kind of been put off by school PE, to be honest, and kind of thought, oh, it's just not for me. I'm an introvert. I like reading. That's just not for me. But actually, kind of rediscovering it in my early 20s. So I recently wrote a post for a magazine that was more of like an article about my experiences. And that was so interesting because I got to kind of get into my own kind of POV, and instead of doing the research, it was more about like my own experience. So I think more opportunities in that sector and more kind of I suppose, is it like articles and kind of, yeah, like long form pieces that I've pitched for almost, for magazines and that kind of thing. I think it would be lovely to kind of explore opportunities in that area. But as I say, I'm a generalist at heart. I like the variety. So yeah, just keep it growing because I do love it. So
yeah,
hoping to keep growing and building what I've been building.
Yeah, just keep moving forward.
Exactly. Sometimes that's it. That's all you can do.
So I just want to move on to something. So as part of Copy That, something that I'd really love to do is kind of build a catalogue of recommendations based on the people that I interview, based on things that I want to recommend, about when you're busy writing or when you're busy doing something, things that we should be listening to. And I'm just wondering if you have any recommendations for things to listen to while you work, whether it's a podcast, an album, a song, an audiobook, a particular style of music, just anything at all. And so, Eleanor, I just ask you, what should we be listening to?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I would say podcasts. I don't know if you've seen the Indie Business Club. That is really good.
Never heard of that
It's
one.
Mel Barfield and Ben McKinney are their names, and they're freelance copywriters, and they're just fantastic, so funny. They've got such a chemistry together. So I really recommend that as a podcast. Although I do find podcasts hard to listen to when I'm writing. I like podcasts for, when you're doing a house job or something a little bit boring and you think, I just want to put something on in the background. So I recommend that. And when I'm writing, I listen to Hamilton. Which I feel like everyone's listened to by now.
That's amazing.
But it's the fast pace of it just gets me writing because it's, I don't know, it feels very urgent,
Yeah.
So that's not really a recommendation because I feel like everyone's listened to that by now, but that is my top tip for writing because it really does the beat.
Amazing. Okay, well, on the back of that, I normally listen to like instrumental music. So I listen to a lot of film scores. I listen to like a lot of ambient music while I'm writing because I can't listen to something with words if I really need to concentrate.
It's interesting that, isn't it? How you have to, it really has to suit it. And sometimes like you could listen to like maybe an old podcast that you've listened to before because that's not something new in your brain.
Yeah.
But if it is something new, you like start typing out the words to the thing you're listening to rather than the thing that you should be writing.
Yes, and I have done that before, and it is embarrassing.
In a shared Google Doc.
What is
he talking about?
Yeah, and then someone reads it and they go, "Okay, this is not. I think you went off on a tangent here." But based off of your Hamilton recommendation, I'm going to recommend the cast recording from Sunset Boulevard, but the Glenn Close version, not the Nicole Scherzinger version.
Very important.
Very important because, and it's all down to the song "As If We Never Said Goodbye." Glenn Close is just I prefer it. And that's my recommendation for today.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, that's a great recommendation
really good.
because that's actually one I've not listened to, so I will definitely check that out.
It's a really great soundtrack. The musical was on in London a couple of years ago, and I didn't get into the music until after it had already moved to New York. So I was like, oh no, I've like missed my chance. That's
a great recommendation. I've got Hamilton and then Indie Business Club if you actually want to learn something.
Fantastic. Yeah, Indie Business Club. I feel like that should be the main one because it's not like a super mainstream thing. So let's support our freelance copywriter.
Yes,
friends.
Definitely. And Mel Barfield's amazing. She's an icon in the copywriting world.
I'll have to go and seek that out because I've never heard of it. But that's a great recommendation. Thank you very much. Yes. And so lastly, this has been really wonderful. I so appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I just have to ask, where can people find you and your work online? Do you have anything to plug?
Oh, thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat to you. I feel like we've covered everything there. Yeah. I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's Eleanor Jones, content writer. I don't know whether to do, people say @ don't they? But LinkedIn's a bit of an odd one.
I don't think you have to with LinkedIn.
No, exactly. So look me up and I will connect with you. So I'm pretty active on there, post about content and SEO and fun life stuff, right? Freelance tips, everything. And then if you fancy learning about the basics of blog writing or kind of how to add a little bit of balance to your life as a creative or a business owner, I've got my eBooks on there as well, just a few basic guides. So you can find most things via that. I kind of use that as a little bit of a hub for clients and for freelancers, and just to help other people. So you'll find all that in my featured section on there.
Thank you for being here, Eleanor. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's amazing. And thanks everybody for listening. And I'm going to test like a couple of different endings throughout the next like few episodes. My favorite one that I think I'm working with at the minute is I'm just going to end on like, did you copy that? And then end it. So that's what we're going to do today. So did you copy that?